It's been since Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so no home. No more. Yeah. I mean, we haven't had. Have we had any homework for Iyov? No, not for Iyov. Yeah. Yeah. Iyov is not gonna have that much homework for that. No.
Just finished up all the classes.
Yeah, I know. Me too. Okay. For those who are following along on just the videos, we are doing a project now for the Aseres Ymei Teshuvah of going over atomic habits. So technically, this is from our Jewish ethics, but we're doing this for Iyov because we don't have Jewish ethics today. So, chapter 5. You, Emily, are going to get a technique you can use for whatever you want. Yeah.
Are we going to talk about our?
Oh yes, I was going to say. Ask me who succeeded in drinking water this morning.
Yeah.
Me. And who succeeded in flossing last night? Me. Yeah. Okay. And Leia's technique with the coffee mug, filling up the coffee mug with water, brilliant. Okay, that worked very well. Did anyone succeed in what they set out to do, or did they have an opportunity? I forgot what everyone said.
I had an opportunity to have it conscious.
Good.
But I didn't do it.
Okay, so consciousness is the first step.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to whiten my teeth, but then I didn't.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, so today we're gonna try to. Okay, well we're gonna use this technique for Emily today. Okay, so again, first law of behavior change is to make it obvious. Two most common cues are time and location. Okay. So this is what he bases this technique he calls an implementation intention. It's a strategy you can use to pair a new habit with a specific time and location. And here's the formula. Emily, this is the thing you're going to use. I will behavior at a time in location. So what you do is instead of saying, for example, I'm going to eat healthy, right? What would be a way of translating that into this?
I will eat a carrot at 7:03 a.m. in my kitchen.
Exactly, right? Is tying it down to specifics, right? Okay. Or let's come up with another example. Let's say you want to do push-ups, right?
It's like setting an alarm though, like on your phone.
You could set your alarm to facilitate the time, but the main thing is that you're tying it to a time and a place instead of just I will do this abstract thing.
I will work at 4 p.m. at that's the time.
Exactly.
In my room.
So now, Emily, what are you gonna do for the?
I will whiten my teeth at 8:30. In my bathroom. Never mind. Well, 8:30 is still
7 o'clock till 7:30. Whiten your teeth.
So I'll wear the whitening strips during our meeting.
So that you can tell us during.
No.
An hour. So that you can tell us during.
It doesn't have to be today. You could do.
How do I whiten my teeth though? I'm like, call me.
Okay, so how about this? Okay, what time is your meeting tonight?
7:30.
7:30. Okay, so how about you can modify this. I will read the instructions for the teeth whitening at 7 o'clock in my bathroom. Okay, that will be a first step, and then that will help you to plan out when you're actually going to do this, because then you'll have an idea of like what time it's going to take. Okay. Yeah, and you see, I'm pointing and calling when I'm saying this, all right? Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else want to set up an implementation intention for a specific thing? And it doesn't have to be a huge life-changing thing like whitening your teeth. It could be small.
Yeah, I need to return a packet.
Okay.
Label it, put it in a box.
Okay, good. So
I'll print out the label at 6:15 in my living room.
good. And this is something that Ayala's suggestion could help with, of setting an alarm. Okay. You want to do that now?
Yeah.
If you got your phone on you? Yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
I have stuff to do, but I like to start habits and stuff. Like, if I know that I make something like for the first time or whatever, like I want to start doing it, I just start doing it.
Good. So then
I mean, like,
that's what we're all trying to get to. But yeah.
It's no way, no.
Yeah.
It's like, I have to start studying. It never happens. So.
Yeah. So then.
It's like with studying, if I like procrastinate, like I'm gonna be annoyed with myself. So just
Yeah.
Like I don't.
That's very annoying.
Purposely.
Yeah.
Put stuff on.
Yeah. So one of the things I am trying to.
When it comes to like cleaning my room.
Yeah.
That's a whole other problem.
One of the things I'm trying to do is with responding to emails. So my strategy has been, and I didn't even realize this, this fits in with the book, is so I have my rabbischneeweiss@gmail.com, and then I have my personal email. Okay. Anything that gets to Rabbi Schneeweiss gets sent to my personal email. My personal email inbox is always at 0. Okay. So what happens is if an email comes, I leave it unread.
Yeah.
So it annoys the heck out of me.
Yeah, it's not true. Are you also the type of person that can have any messages on WhatsApp that are like?
Yes, yeah, exactly, right? So that's an example of making it of making the cue obvious, right? But what I'm trying to do now is emails that I can respond to now, I try to do immediately, as opposed to like leaving them until later on. Okay, ready for the next strategy? I actually mentioned this yesterday. Habit stacking, which is a cute name, is a strategy you can use to pair a new habit with a current habit. So you take something that you're already doing, and then you attach another habit to that. And the formula for this is after I blank, I will blank. Okay?
After I get dressed, I'll put away the clothes that I didn't put on.
Exactly, right? Good. So you just set up a habit stacking thing for yourself, right? So for me,
After you brush your teeth, you will floss.
yes, after, yeah, and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do the other way around and making the flossing into an obstacle to brush my teeth. Like I have to get through the floss in order to get to.
That's the thing. That's why I never end up brushing my teeth. I'm like, oh, I already brushed my teeth, and it doesn't feel so much better
Yeah.
when you floss first.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. I forgot. So two examples. Okay. Actually, I'll just give this one example. Someone mentioned in their tshuva thing about that they need to get into the habit of saying bracha achrona.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, that was you. Okay, yeah. So, so I also used to have a problem with, or I still do really. Well, of sometimes if I'm eating while I'm involved with something, I'll forget to say bracha achrona. So what the technique I use, which I didn't know this was habit stacking, is as after I eat the last bite, I'll say bracha achrona. Or after I empty the cup, I will say bracha achrona. And what that does is, because what would happen is it's not that I would forget, I would forget whether I said a bracha achrona or not, you know? So I would finish, I'd be like, you know, let's say like watching something or doing work and then eating, and then get into this daze of like, oh, did I say a bracha achrona or not? So once I attach it to eating the last bite, and I do it right then, you know, eating last bite is a current habit, right? I always eat the last bite, and then like I attach this to it. Yeah.
You have advice for like how to say a Sherry after?
You know what? So this is an interesting thing. So my problem was I always said Asher Yatzar, but I didn't think about it. Okay, so what I did is in my apartment, and I think people do this, you know, in general. I put the sign in big. I printed out the entire Asher Yatzar and put it right in. Like I exit my bathroom and just see it right there, and I stand while reading it while I say it, even though I know it by heart, and that makes me more conscious of it. But let's see, how could you do this with Asher Yatzar? So you can say, after I wash my hands, I will say Asher Yatzar. Right, and you pair it to something that you already do. I hope you already wash your hands.
Close the door after you go to the bathroom. Yeah. So then when you close the door.
After I close the door, I will say Asher Yatzar. After I turn off the light, I'll say, yeah, okay, good, yeah, and you got to pick what works for you. Here's another one: I've tried for many years to get into the example of like doing certain exercises, you know, for a certain amount of day, like, you know, push-ups, sit-ups, whatever. So I never used to do them. So I started this new habit, and this sticks. After I get out of bed, immediately I do the exercises.
That's a lot.
And what it does, it actually works to my advantage. You know why? Because I'm still tired, so I can trick myself into doing them before I wake up. But once I'm fully up, then I come up with all the rationalizations for not doing it, you know? And I also use the example of the putting an obstacle there is fellow glasses wearers. How bad is your vision?
Pretty bad.
Mine's pretty bad, okay, right? So you probably also put on your glasses very soon after you wake up.
Oh, no,
I mean, but okay. When I don't wear my glasses, I walk into furniture and end up at
Right.
the hospital. So,
Okay, fine, yes, yeah. So
my
my vision is horrible. So what I do is I also make it so I don't put on my glasses until after I've done the exercises.
Isn't that like so hard? It makes it so much more annoying.
Yes, exactly, right? Because it makes it annoying, and my motive is to like get past the annoyance, you know. Now, so
It's a lot of self-control.
so remember, like we said yesterday, right? Sometimes you have to make it attractive, and sometimes you have to make something unattractive. So for me, I'm not going to succeed right now in making the exercise attractive, but I can succeed in making the avoidance of exercise unattractive.
Exactly.
And not seeing is very unattractive. In fact, I can't even be attracted to it because I can't see. Yeah.
So you don't have self-control to not plan your classes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have
Yes, right. Look, at the end of the day, everything requires self-control. Okay, but it's what do you call it? It's but once you apply the self-control to the habit formation, as opposed to the actual thing, then it gets rid of self-control, or it gets rid of the need. Here's another one. So there's a halakhic obligation for men. I don't think it's on women. I've never heard anyone say it's on women to make 100 brachos a day.
Oh, really? Because in Solomon they give us a cooker. Yeah,
Ah,
so fun.
So I wanted to. I don't think it can be because you just don't. I mean, you could, but like, you're not obligated in tefillin, in tzitzis, in like mariv, like it's just very. Yeah, right. You have to eat all day. Yeah. Yeah. So so what I did is so I didn't have a problem saying brachos, but I have a problem keeping track of the 100 to make sure I got it. So I bought this little guy.
Clicker. Wait, is that the same thing?
No, it's not. So this goes up to 100. So what I do is I made this into, I already say brachos, but I'm not counting them. So after I say the bracha, I will, okay? And
What are you at?
today I'm at 47. Yeah. And this worked. So I started doing this in the summer, and now like I pretty much the only time I actually like need to actively keep track is on Shabbos when you have fewer brachos, but like during the week I always hit my quota. So
during
this helped.
Mariv, like after Mariv, you're like, oh, there's 12 brachot, and you go up 12. Or how do you do that?
So let's say like on a Shabbos. So what I have to do, the remedy is like Ayala says to eat, and to say extra brachos through eating. So on Shabbos, I will, let's say like at Kiddush, I'll have a shahakol, a brit adama, 8, and then and so I'll just make sure that I get enough of that throughout the Shabbos day, and click up at the right amount of time.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that's habit stacking, and that's implementation intention. Okay. Good. I like these a lot. These are good ones. Yeah. Okay. So be prepared to report your success. Counting on you. Counting on you. Counting on you. Okay. Oh, sorry. And this is one. I forgot. There's one more thing. You can stack. The reason why it's habit stacking is if you associate. You could link them together, right? So let's say for me, right? So after I wake up, then I immediately, I'm not going to identify 4 steps for each one. After I wake up, I do my exercises and then put on the glasses. Then I get my coffee mug, fill it with water, right? And then after I drink the water, I fill it with coffee. Then after I do the coffee, I do my email. So like. You can once you chain them up, then you can create like long trains of habits where you just do it all automatically, and it's very effective. Say again?
I feel like the morning.
Yeah, mornings lend themselves to this. Yeah. But also like a going to sleep routine could also lend itself to this. Like I could incorporate flossing in here. Okay, so that was a long time in that, but that's okay. All right, Iyov. So let's quickly review because we got through chapter 2 last time. So first. You don't have to write this down. This is just review. So Satan claims that Iyov is only good because Hashem blessed him and protected him. And if not for the blessing, then Iyov would bless him, right? So stage 1 of the Satan's afflictions, he does what? Takes away all of his kids and stuff, right? And what does Iyov do? He actually blesses Hashem, right? And he doesn't send him in his heart. Perik Sheni, Hashem.
Says that Hashem says with all of these commandments.
Yeah, you didn't mess with his body, you messed with his stuff. So then Hashem gives him permission to strike Iyov's body. So then, not his life. So what's Iyov's, so he gets boils. And what's his initial reaction? In what way?
He says, yeah, Baruch Elokim Bami.
That's his wife.
Out loud, but in his head, he may not.
Well, what happens before all this, right, is his wife says, bless God and die. And he says, can we accept the good and not accept the bad?
Right.
But then inside, he was, oh, sorry, I didn't write that. Inside, he had already started to like, doubt, curse, whatever. His 3 friends come to visit him and to mourn him. They sit for 7 days and 7 nights. And then, this is the last pasuk we ended off on.
Like, for
He curses his day, right? After that, Iyov opened his mouth and cursed his day. Okay. So this is the point in the Sefer where we switch from Hebrew, which was easy, to English because the Hebrew is so difficult. So I'm going to give you a translation here. This translation is based on, when I first started learning this, I was learning the Malbim, and someone wrote an English translation of the Malbim. So this is specifically the Malbim's translation. Yeah, here you go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to read the whole parak and talk about what he means, and then we're going to summarize the parak in 3 bullet points. Okay, so let's just right now read and try to understand. Okay, let's start from this side of the table this time. Okay, Iyov, you want to read?
Sure.
Okay.
Iyov then declared, saying, Would that the day of my birth be consigned to oblivion together with the night that decreed that a man was to be conceived?
Yes, pause there for 1 second.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, do we know what the word consigned means? Yeah, attached. Yeah, attached, really like relegated or like assigned. You know, what's oblivion? Nothingness. Okay, so may the day of my birth be consigned to oblivion together with the night that decreed that a man was to be conceived. Go ahead.
May that day become dark, and may God pay it no heed from above. May light never shine upon it. May darkness and the shadow of death
Befoul it. What does it mean to befoul something? Make it disgusting. Yeah.
Befoul it. May a cloud rest upon it. May the heat of days brighten it.
Okay, so just to scrutinize here, he's not talking yet about the day of his birth. He's talking about the day of his conception. Okay, right? So he's basically asking God to take that day and just like completely like annihilate it, mess it up, throw it away. Okay, go ahead, Emily. He goes on.
May that night of my conception be steeped in blackness. Let it not become joined with the rest of the days of the year, nor included in the days of the month.
So like rip it off the calendar.
Behold, let that night be lonely and forlorn. Let not the joyful sounds of a wedding penetrate it. Those born on that day will curse that night. Their curse will be that all future mating on this night be barren. May its twilight stars be darkened. Let the night hope in vain for the arrival of the light of day. Let it not see the glimmerings of dawn. For it did not shut the entrance of my mother's womb, and there I had misery from my eyes. Why was I not aborted by the womb at birth, or die of weakness upon my emergence from it? Why was I received unto my father's lap, or and my mother's given breast for me to suckle?
Yeah, stop there for a second. Okay, so if you think about it, there's a sequencing here. Okay, so his first wish is
The day that he was conceived.
the day he was conceived should be eliminated. Okay, but then he basically says, okay, fine, but let's say that day exists. So now he says number 6, let that night be lonely and forlorn. Let not the joyful sounds of a wedding penetrate it, which is a euphemism for fine. Okay, I have my day, but I wish my parents never had relations on that day. Okay, then what's the next step that he wishes?
Anyone who does should not have children.
Right, is okay, fine. My parents had relations, but may it not have been, I wish it weren't fruitful. I wish that that no conception would have come from that. What's the next step in number 9?
Why was I born?
Before birth.
Oh, why was I?
So he's saying, so I guess this is a subdivision within this is, let's say like let's say my father was fruitful. I wish my mother would have been barren. Okay. Then 10.
If the father was barren, why did the woman abort the child?
Yeah, he's basically saying, I wish my mom would have not had an abortion. I don't know if they had like procedures back then, but like a miscarriage basically, right? He's wishing that his mom miscarried. And in the second half of 10, even before that, he should have died at birth, right? Okay, so in other words, so his okay, and then 11, first half of 11.
Why was he like nurtured?
That's the second half of 11, right? Nurtured. What role is the father playing here in the birth process? Catching the baby when it fell out. So again, if you look at the sequence here, right? So he's saying, yeah, exactly, right? So he's saying, I wish that the day never existed, but the day existed. I wish that my parents didn't have relations. Well, my parents had relations. I wish that they would have both been barren, not fruitful. Okay, my father was fruitful. I wish my mother would have been barren. Okay, fine. My mother got pregnant. I wish that she would have miscarried. Okay, she didn't miscarry. I wish that that I would have died as soon as I was born. Okay, I didn't die. I wish my dad would have dropped me. Okay, my dad didn't drop me. I wish my mom wouldn't have been able to like breastfeed me. Okay, so he's like really like going into details here. Yeah, and this is what I meant when I said that we're gonna go examine the parak as a whole, because you could see it's not like there's a separate philosophical idea in each of these. It's just very poetic, and we're just trying to get like the main thrust of this.
Confusing though, because if you're so upset about things that are falling in your life, I still don't see how that can make you want to not ever.
Oh, we'll get to that when we analyze it. Okay. Who wants to read next? Eliana. 12.
But now I can only rest peacefully in my grave. Had I slept as a stillborn, I would have escaped directly into repose. I would not then be with kings and ministers who built monumental ruins to themselves, nor with princes who possess gold and fill their houses with silver. Nor would I be a buried stillborn, nor like the newborns who have not yet seen the light of day. There, in the sleep of the stillborn, the wicked do not rage, and there the weary will rest. Prisoners are tranquil together. They do not hear the voice of their taskmasters. The small and the great are there together, and the slave is free of his master.
Yeah. Now this is a little bit of like fantasizing about what it would have been like if he was stillborn. So, but how do you characterize his fantasy? Like, what is the thing that he's highlighting as appealing about like after death?
Nothingness.
Nothing. Yeah, nothingness. Right. All of the like social competitions and hierarchies are not going on. The oppression that a slave feels from his taskmaster is not going on. I would have been at peace, basically. Okay, at peace from like troubles. Okay. Elisha, if you want to read 19.
Why give light to him who toils? Why give life to embittered souls? Why is death not there for those who look forward to its coming? Why is it on earth while searching for hidden treasures? It would be better for those who rejoice over happy occasions.
Yeah, exalt. Now, exalt is different than exalt. Exalt means to praise. You know what exalt means? No. What do you say, Leah? Nope. Exult is to rejoice or to sing joyously.
Exalt each time they came upon the face of a man whose way is obscured and whom God has fenced in. While I eat my bread, my sighs appear before me, and my crises of anguish flow like water unrestrained. I feared greatly, and that which I feared has alas overtaken me. I was not secure, nor quiet, or tranquil, when the rage of an ill-fated destiny descended upon me.
Yeah. Now those last two psukim kind of don't fit the character of the rest of them. What in your own words, what is he saying in those last two psukim here?
It seemed like it wasn't his choice.
Yeah, it seemed like it wasn't his choice. And how is he characterizing what happened to him?
Not just like content and secure.
Right, but how is he characterizing the tragedies that befell him?
Oh, like someone maliciously did it to him.
More so than that, it's an ill-fated destiny. That it was bound to happen, right? And he says, "I feared greatly, and that which I feared has last overtaken me." Like I knew this was going to happen. Okay.
He thinks that they were all taken away because of their sin.
He doesn't say that, right?
Yeah, but he says that it was ill-fated. He wouldn't have thought, oh, my son put me up to some stock on, and he's like, yeah, I'll go mess with him.
Right. Well, so but fated does not imply that it's a result of sins, because sins means that they chose. Fated means that it was bound to happen.
Yeah, exactly. So he's saying it's bound to happen. So he's saying it's bound to happen as a result of all their sins. That's their punishment.
I don't think you would use the word fated or destiny for that though, because that would be based on choice. Like if you said like,
nobody said destiny has gotten punishment.
Then it's not as a result of their sins. Yeah, I don't buy. I mean, maybe another interpretation. Maybe there are others who interpret ill-fated destiny differently. But the way the Malbim's saying it is like he means like it was fated and it was destiny, meaning it had to happen. So just to summarize the parak here, okay, what would you say the main point or points are in this parak?
He was never born.
Right. Yep.
Never existed.
Yep. And okay, so
God, why?
he doesn't actually ask God why, right? And are you pointing? Oh yes, but that's not asking God though. That's basically saying like, that's just exclaiming, like that's a rhetorical question of like, you know, like Pasuk 20, I think is the best example of this, is like, how do you put 20 in your own words here?
If people want this, why can't it be?
Right, and then what's the
Why
second half
are you telling
saying?
people who don't- Oh,
So he's basically saying like this, right? So the people who want death don't get it, and the people who don't want death, it comes to them when they're in the middle of like searching for treasures, you know. So like, why can't you have like death on demand? You know, yeah, yeah,
like those movies.
yeah. So summary of Perek Gimel: he curses the day of his birth and wishes he were never born. He yearns for non-existence. If only I were in the grave like a stillborn, and then I would be free from all this stuff. And then the very end is he says, I feared that this fate was destined to befall me, and now it finally has.
Thinking rationally over here.
Good question. The assumption of the author of the book is yes, and I'm going to try to unpack that starting today. Okay.
Serious? I feel like as a kid, like if you're really mad at your mom, you'd be like, why would you never had me?
Right.
Like, is he saying it in that type of way, like trying to be spiteful to God, or does he genuinely feel?
Seems like he genuinely feels that way. Yeah.
Also, like,
Yes. Okay. Good. Right. So that kind of seems to contradict what he expressed before. Okay. Good. That'll be one of our questions. Okay. So speaking of questions, what are the questions we have to ask on Iyov's little meltdown here?
Is he mentally stable? No, I'm kidding.
No, I mean that was the first question, and we're going to assume that let's assume. So certainly, if this is a mashal, right? If this whole thing never happened and it's just being written for the ideas, then if we assume that this is a mental breakdown, then there's no point in the whole Sefer, right? So we're assuming that this is like expressing a real position or real thoughts. So what are the questions we have to ask on this chapter?
what's the idea of fate?
Yeah. What is this thing he says at the end that this was fated to befall me? Good. Oh yeah.
Why doesn't he like turn to God?
Yeah. What exactly happens here in terms of his relationship to God? And I said last time, and you don't have to agree with this, but I think that you would have expected him to curse, God, right? But he doesn't. He curses his day, and he wishes that his day were never there. He doesn't even express any blasphemy towards God, which is what like the whole Satan expected him to do that, but he doesn't. Okay.
Sounds like that psychological, I don't exactly know the term for it, but like misdirect anger, where like you're angry at something, but you're like not allowed to be angry. That's like
right.
Anger.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so that's definitely a possibility, right? That, yeah.
It sounds like he's not living in reality. Like he's wishing that nature didn't work.
That's true. Yeah. And in that sense, then his wish is irrational because like he knows that you can't change the past, right? So, yeah. So, but what? Okay, this is an interesting thing. Given his wishes here, that he wishes he was never born and stuff like that, what might you expect him to do? To kill himself, right? So here are my questions, okay? And I'm putting in this order just because this is the order that occurred to me. So first question, why did he curse his day, right? Why not God, or why not deny God? That's another thing that he might have done, right? That's the I don't want to trivialize, but that's like the philosophically fashionable thing now, right? Nowadays, in the olden days, when bad stuff happened to people, they would curse God. Nowadays, bad stuff happens to people, they deny God, right? So I think we should understand why he doesn't deny God. 2, what exactly does he believe now? This is taking the question that Elisheva asked and like formulating it as a seeking of information. Like, okay, if this is not a mental breakdown, so what exactly does he believe now about his life, about God, about like the way the world works, 3, what changed during the 7 days of silence? Because he did not react this way initially, right? In fact, he rebuked his wife for speaking impiously. Then he was silent, and then he opened his mouth and cursed his day. So what changed over those 7 days, and why did it change? 4, if he wanted to die so much, why didn't he just end it? Okay. That could be, right? So we could get, and this is why I still think it's more productive to treat this as an allegory and to understand, like, we understand why a real living person would not want to do this because like maybe he's scared or whatever, but like philosophical, like we're inferring philosophical positions from this. Like what view does that reflect? The fact that he didn't want to kill himself. And then the last question is, what did he mean by those last two psukim? Okay, so those are the questions. All right, we're probably only going to have time for part of this now. Why do you think he cursed his day? And he really puts the emphasis on the day, right? Like, I wish it would have been ripped off from the calendar. I wish it would have been consigned to darkness. I wish a cloud would have been over it. I wish no one would have had relations on that day. Okay. So he's blaming the day and saying if the day never happened, then none of this would have happened to him. Okay. Can we elaborate on that a little bit more?
He's saying like more bad stuff has happened than good stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
that's what I was saying.
Yeah, right. That's it.
Maybe because I'm so bad. Like your kids died, then it's like, what was the point?
Yeah, you could have a phenomenon where it outweighs the good that you receive. That's good. That's true.
Feels bad. He's like, well, if I was there prior to such, and none of my kids would have died, none of my wife would have died.
Right.
Well, they wouldn't have been.
There wouldn't have been kids, but there would have been the wife.
Right.
Maybe
Why
it's
didn't
all the life around she dies.
Yeah.
Kind of like views life differently. Like days and I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. Like
his wife,
every day is a new day, just like all these people in his life just he blinked his eyes and they were gone. Like all his animals, all his kids.
Yeah.
So maybe
Yeah.
there's some sort of like
Okay, that's a good approach.
Meaning?
I don't think you're not saying double meaning, right? You're saying that like maybe this shifted his whole perspective on like
on like how one day like
Yeah.
everything and how like when the hill and the sun sets, you don't know what the next day is gonna be.
yeah like
Is that?
yeah, like analogous to this is not the same thing, but like analogous to I think we all have a changed view of how the phrase next year is supposed to work. Like I always assumed until now that you could kind of predict in some way what you're going to be doing next year, you know, like there's a certain regularity. And like now we realize that like even the phrase next month, we can't predict because of the bad stuff that happened to, like it changes our conception of how time works or how life unfolds, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, there's an excitement also, but there's also a sheer terror. Yeah. Yeah.
I like when random
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay, let's not spiral into that line of thing. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna start to answer questions 1 and 2, which was why did he curse his day and what does he believe now? Okay, and I don't know if this is gonna be clear for you if you try to take notes or if you just like watch it and listen. Okay, so because it's gonna be some rapid changes here. Okay, so maybe just like listen for now, and I'll post the PowerPoint. So prior to his breakdown. And we're not saying we're not calling it a psychotic or mental breakdown. We're calling it like a philosophical breakdown. So he had 6 premises, six beliefs that he had. Okay, God exists. God is omniscient, which means
has a view of everything.
yeah, all knowing, right? And you see the omni means all. Science is related to the word science. So all knowing. Okay. God is omnipotent, which means that's all powerful, right? Because potent means powerful, right? God can do anything. God is perfect, meaning in this context that he doesn't do evil or he doesn't have faults, okay? He is mashgiach. He supervises mankind, or hashgacha. He has providence. He's involved with the lives of human beings. He rewards and punishes them in accordance with justice. Okay, this is his belief. How I know?
Yeah.
Well, we know that he thought that God was involved with human actions or in human life from the korbanos, right? And he was worried about sinning against God and like being punished, right? And he also talks about how God gave him the good and not, should we accept the good and not the bad? Yeah. Now, where am I getting this from? I'm getting this from the Malbim. Okay. But
what made you think you would believe God?
so Malbim is under the impression that Iyov is Jewish. Okay, so these are just premises that we get from Judaism. I guess if he wasn't Jewish, we definitely are assuming that he had a belief in God, or he held by God, and these things can be inferred. Sefer Yikarim has a whole thing about how you can infer these things from the concept of God as a necessary existence. I'm not fluent in those arguments, so I can't like prove it. But in other words, it's like philosophically, if you hold that God is one, then that also means he's not physical. and it also means he's outside of time. So
These all go together.
these all go together. Yeah, that's how we'll treat it for now. Okay. So a modern day person in Iyov's position would deny Hashem's existence, right? That's what typically happens when people who are religious and they suffer bad stuff and then they become atheists, right? Like in the Holocaust, this happened a lot, right? And I'm not judging people who do this. I'm just saying like that's typically what happens. Now, if you deny number 1, then what else has everything else except for number 6, right? Because it's not going to change your belief in yourself, but you would have to deny God's omnipotence, perfection, and hashgacha. Okay, but Iyov didn't deny Hashem's existence because that would be irrational. Okay, how is it irrational to deny God's existence when bad stuff happens to you?
Because he's the one who's creating bad. It would be like denying that there's bad happening.
No, you can definitely hold that bad stuff happens to you and not deny God's existence, right? Because that's what nature, right?
Okay.
Maybe that would make you think that you're not innocent and you deserve it.
What would make you think that?
Like if all this bad happens to you and there's no like God or anything that's doing it to you, then like you're doing it to yourself.
Right, but what I'm asking is, so Iyov, bad stuff happened to him, and he didn't deny God because he held that would be irrational. And I'm asking, why would it be irrational to deny God when bad stuff happens to you? What are you saying? Or how are you answering? No? Okay.
Specifically, his bad things that happened had to have been miraculous.
You could tie it to the particulars, but I feel like he got covered, like all of that stuff except death, lost all of his stuff, all of his kids, and it got physical suffering. Okay, close.
I mean, we don't know when he. I was gonna say Nebuah, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, not Nebuah. Although that'll come up later on.
I feel like if 6 is true, that
Yeah.
he's innocent, yet Ra's will fall on me. Like that contrast. You can't say like, oh, I'm innocent, so good should happen to me unless Hashem exists. Unless not Hashem, but like there is a
Okay, I think actually the closest one is what Emily said. So the answer is like this: is the reason why it would be irrational to say bad stuff happened to me, therefore God doesn't exist, is your belief in God's existence is not based on stuff that happens to you. What is your belief in God's existence based on?
What you know.
Yeah, what you know, based on proof, based on arguments. So it's not at all dependent on how you experience things, okay? An analogy to this would be like, let's say, for example, you believe in science and medicine. And then let's say like you get diagnosed with cancer and that's really bad. You say, well, since I don't like what happened to me, therefore science doesn't exist. We would say that that's irrational. In other words, your belief in science should not be based on what happens or doesn't happen to you. Your belief in science should be based on philosophical arguments for the existence of science. In other words, it's a very short-sighted, very mishlaically foolish thing to make conclusions about reality based on just like on source of all reality based on what happens to you. Okay? Because our belief in God is not based on what happens to us. Our belief in God is based on Torah Sinai. It's based on the universe, study of the universe. It's not based on personal things. It's based on an objective investigation. So that's why that's why his belief in God was not unseated by what happened to him. Does that make sense? I'm seeing squinty eyes, like suspicious eyes. Yeah.
Without the Torah,
Yeah.
Is there a way to have definite proof of God?
Yeah.
Like you could. Yeah.
There's a bunch of arguments that people have. I mean, not all arguments are equally valid, but let's say like Rabbeinu Bachya ibn Pakuda in his Chovos HaLevavos goes through an argument. Aristotle has, I think, 2 arguments for it. Plato has an argument for God's existence. And this is why like the existence of God was not, a lot of people had disagreements about how God operates, but the fact that God existed, it was something that was accepted by philosophers, up until like the modern era.
I get how it could be like extremely probable, but how can you say definite?
Well, as definitely based on the, okay, I take that back. Depends on what kind of proof you're using, right? There are logical proofs that have like 100% certainty in the same way that mathematical proofs do. And then there's other types of philosophical arguments which are based on like beyond a reasonable doubt, but like you could say, well, maybe we're all hallucinating. Like,
I don't think that there is beyond a reasonable doubt with God.
I mean, I'm telling you that there are many philosophers who have arguments that they do maintain are beyond a reasonable doubt. And there are some who even hold that is 100%.
No, that's what I'm saying, the 100% one.
Oh, you're saying that it is 100%, or there's
that argument is impossible with a being that you can't see, because only something that you can, your senses can see. Can you say that it's 100%?
well, mathematics is. What was that?
Even then, you can't say that. You know, I'm seeing this. I see it. I hear
Right.
it. I smell it.
Yeah, but that's not 100% though, right?
Why is it not?
Because you could be hallucinating.
But I'm not.
You don't know
You
that.
don't know that
That's
though.
because you're believing in your senses.
Yeah. Anything based on the senses can't be 100%.
So what
But stuff based on the mind, like math, can be 100%. Meaning, if it's impossible for your mind to think contrary to it, then it's 100%.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, like for example, like I can know 100% that there's no such thing as a square circle, because it is literally, it's impossible to think the concept of a square circle. Or let's say like a triangle, right? So you cannot wait, what would be a good example? There's other mathematical examples. I mean, like math is
That works for you. That works.
yeah,
Square circle.
yeah, right.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that there are philosophers who try to construct 100% proofs of God's existence, and then there are other philosophical arguments where it's beyond a reasonable doubt, which means you could doubt it, but you have no actual reason to doubt it. Like the proof that God gave the Torah at Har Sinai, that's not 100%, but that's beyond a reasonable doubt, because by the same criteria we believe all other historical events and judge all other secondhand knowledge, then we would accept Torah Sinai. You know, if you've been through that in any of your classes. Yeah, Eliana? Right. So you'd have to. Wait, are you? Repeat your question one more time.
Isn't that like true with other religions too, where people claim that certain things happen and like they base their religion?
Right, but not all religions claim that they can prove it, and Judaism claims that we can actually prove it. You know, that's a claim. Like other religions, basically, will say that you have to have faith. You know, yeah.
I don't think have we ever learned 100% of God in any of our classes?
I had an aborted attempt once in Tefillah group that I did for one day and then realized it was too much for that group. And then I did it again with my 12th graders. We can go through it at some point if you want. It's based on Aristotle's proof. Yeah, we can do that at some point. Okay, let's stop for today. Okay, and we'll pick up here tomorrow because we got one more minute left. All right, you're welcome.
Oh, what is this?